That's the exact opposite of what I have.
I'm just kind of going off a feeling what I've
For the
seen these
most
last
part,
couple of years.
I
Yeah.
had to start putting some people in.
Well,
I got one Chevy.
well, we'll get our lineups here in a second. Let's give our power rankings heading into Nashville. I'll give you mine since you started it off last week. So at number 5, I've dropped him down. This is his last chance to be in the top 5 of power rankings. He made his way up a little bit through the pack at New Hampshire and got caught up in a wreck, same as my number 4 guy. But Denny Hamlin's dropped to number 5 on my list. Number 4, I have Ryan Blaney. He was in contention to win that race and then got caught up in a wreck with those wet weather tires. So he's at number 4 for me. At number 3, I've got Kyle Larson. Had a good solid run at the end at New Hampshire. He was one of the few Chevys that can make his way through the field. Everybody else really struggled. Uh, Number 2, I've got Christopher Bell. He wasn't even in my power rankings, but as good as he's been lately, I'm putting him up as high as number 2. And at number 1, I'm keeping him there. I'm keeping Chase Elliott at number 1. He's still tied for the points lead with Kyle Larson, which Larson would have the tiebreaker because of wins. But yes, they're tied at the top. Go ahead with yours.
All right, so we're close. So I like you. I dropped Denny Hamlin last week. I had him at 4. I dropped him down to number 5 because screw Denny Hamlin, little douche. Well, we'll get in the whole spotter thing with Larson,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
his spotter was correct. So and the next 3 were tough because they all have been actually pretty good, but I actually dropped Chase Elliott down to number 4. Just because he wasn't like the fastest Chevy, and I kept Ryan Blaney at 3. He's just been very consistent like the last 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, I know he got into a crash. It wasn't his fault, so we're going to give him a pass on that one. I did move Christopher Bell up from number 5 to number 2, and that's another one. He's been on a roll here lately. He's been fast everywhere, and I kept Kyle Larson at number 1 mainly because all the Chevys completely sucked except for him. He's the only one that could actually do anything and remotely sniff the front. So that's kind of a championship team run where either the tracks, you don't have a good setup and everybody kept plugging away, and he came home with what did he get, 4th or something like that?
Yeah, he got a top 5, but let's stay on Larson. Stay with talking about championship teams. Denny Hamlin raced Larson hard once again, drove him up the track, and cost Larson a couple positions on one of the restarts. Actually, probably his chance to even get up to Christopher Bell and be able to move Christopher Bell to take the lead. That was his last chance to have it to possibly win. Yeah, so if anybody hasn't heard the audio by now, and I think a lot of people have, Cliff Daniels started off saying, "Hey, this is how you need to figure out how you're going to start racing him. Like you need to decide now because that's going to keep happening." Then the spotter chips in and says, "You know why he races you that way every time? Because you let it happen every time." And Larson was just like, "Screw you."
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I don't disagree with the spotter. Larson definitely
he does. And Larson he was pissed.
He's trying to race clean.
Well, yeah, Larson is generally probably one of the cleanest drivers in the field. He does not try to wreck anybody or use up people, and he still runs the hell out of it. But he doesn't really move people out of the way. That's just not how he's ever raced. But he's going to have to learn. Especially around Denny, because clearly Denny is not going to give him anything ever. So Larson should just came back and just bumped him right in going into 3. That's how racing goes. He doesn't have to take him out, but you still gotta you gotta give a bump
make
or
sure
something.
Like, hey, that wasn't cool, so I'm going to shove you up the track.
Yeah, and and it wasn't the dirtiest thing we've ever seen Denny Hamlin do because they never made contact on that one, and then it cost Larson to be out of the race completely.
Yeah, he definitely used him up though.
He did, but he seems to always do it because, like the spotter said, Larson's let it happen. So we'll see what he does moving forward. I don't expect Larson to really change his style, though. I mean, that's just not how he races. But all right, let's get into our fantasy lineups for Nashville. I sucked completely last week. I took some chances on people, and actually, the ones I took chances are finished better than the decent drivers I had in my lineup. But I said, screw this. I'm going all in on Nashville. I'm throwing everybody I possibly can. So here's my lineup for Nashville Superspeedway and NASCAR Fantasy. My starters are Kyle Larson, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, and Chase Elliott. And in my garage is Christopher Bell. Yes,
Yeah,
I've got everybody. I'm
I'll
stacking
say.
up everybody. I had Bowman for a minute. I was going to have the entire Hendrick fleet out there. I was like, let me just keep Bowman for a little bit. And then my featured matchups are Christopher Bell versus William Byron. I'm actually taking William Byron on this one. I don't see him having two really bad weeks in a row like that. Ross Chastain versus Truex. I do have Chastain in my lineup because I'm mainly saving Truex. I had to save somebody. I think I only have 4 more chances for him, but I've got Truex over Chastain in this one. Denny Hamlin versus Chase Elliott. I've got Chase. He's been the most consistent driver, and he's won here before. This is a good track for him. Chris Buescher versus Tyler Reddick. I do have Tyler Reddick over Chris Buescher. I think it's going to be a Toyota versus Chevy day. The hot pick, they say Denny Hamlin, and that's one of the Toyotas I think could definitely show up. Hot pick is Ross Chastain. He's been top 10 here like every single year. So this is a good track for him as a confidence booster for him. This is avoid Alex Bowman, and that's not the main reason I did it. I had faith in him last week, and he blew up. Avoid Chris Buescher. I think it's the first time you actually avoid Chris Buescher. He's not on the sleeper. And the sleeper this week is Daniel Suarez. He goes pretty solid here, but he just hasn't had the speed this year for me to feel comfortable putting him in a lineup. All right, go ahead with your fantasy.
All right. So I'm trying to use up some drivers. I was starting to get down. I gotta. Some of it I can only use 3 or 4 more times. So I kind of got a few smacks in here. So I have Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, Josh Berry, Brad Keselowski, Chase Briscoe, and in my garage I have Noah Gragson.
So you're going heavy on Fords.
Yeah, I'm going. I was actually looking to see how many times I used people and kind of went down from there.
Yeah, I'm going ham this week, and I'm going to kind of try. I'm trying to get back into it because you and Mom are both pulling away from me in fantasy.
So I have Christopher Bell over William Byron. I have Truex over Ross Chastain, Denny Hamlin over Chase Elliott, and Tyler Reddick over Chris Buescher.
All right. Well, there goes our lineups, and this is pretty significant. So see who can make up ground this week. This is a pretty big one. All right, so 3 series at Nashville this week. Trucks, Xfinity, Cup. Most notably in the Truck Series is that Clint Boyer will be racing for Spire Motorsports in this race. So it'll be interesting to see him back out. Yeah, be interesting to see him back out on the track, see what he can do. He's a little bit rusty, but I think with as long as he doesn't get in a crash, he'll probably finish top 10.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good truck. So it's the
I think that's
one.
Fast I think that one Kyle Busch has won a couple times, and
the 7 truck I think it is, or something like that.
Yeah, his teammates with Raja Caruth.
Okay.
All right. Well, for the Truck Series, who do you have? And this is Friday night.
Yeah, 8:00 Friday night. So I'm going to go Chevy on this one. I got Nick Sanchez.
And I've got a Toyota on this one. I've got Corey Heim.
Okay. Low hanging fruit.
Well, there's about 3 trucks that could probably win. It's not like a lot of other series. Xfinity.
So this one, I don't think I've ever really picked him before, but it's like I kind of forget about him, and he's usually pretty good. So I got Austin Hill on this one.
All right. And I'm going another Toyota driver, another second place finish last week. I've got Sheldon Creed to try to get his first win. That poor guy.
I know, poor guy.
And for the Cup Series on Sunday afternoon.
So my pick for the win, so I went from Chevy, now I got Toyota. So I got Tyler Reddick for that one, and Mom's pick is Kyle Larson.
I went Toyota. I'm going Chevy on this one. I've got Chase Elliott for Nashville. So this is like polar opposites we've got. Well, that does it for our NASCAR picks.